we'll cover the new tournament format. We'll cover like the tournament schedule, like if it's gonna be on the 25th or not, and we'll cover some stuff about inspections and potentially a new tier involved. We're gonna have basically I'll go over some of the issues with our old format and some of the, time constraints, all of that sorts. So, let me pull out the old. Okay, looks like I deleted it. But I'll bring up I'll use this as an example. So if we look at this challenge format, for example, if we look at the tournament, it looks fine in some regards. But basically what's going on is you have a team like Gast playing against like tier 2, you can maybe even argue tier 3, like very low like pub level players in the first round. And this isn't really like the most engaging way for them to get a tournament experience and even enjoy the tournament. The difference now is we'll have the 32nd seed and the 33rd seed play their first match, or the 16th seed and the 17th seed play their first match. And if you look at all of these groups, it's very even disparity. You'll have the 26th seed play the 39th seed, and you'll have these groups kind of play against like not the hardest opponents, but they'll have more it'll be more fair for them than just putting like the 40th seed versus the first seed. And that's like the main difference we're going with this. Now, basically how this while that match is going, the 16th and the 17th seed will be playing their game. So since they're going to be playing their game, both of these matches will be ready around the same time. So let's just say the 16th seed versus the 17th seed plays their game out, everything goes all good and that sort. They'll have their game out. And if you look for the 32 and 33 seed, they're playing a more fair game. They're not just playing against the 4th seed or the 5th seed. They're playing against more evenly seeded players and they have more of a chance. Now, you can make the argument that if you play against these top 5, top 6 seeded teams, it's really tough and those pub teams pretty much are getting nuked down in their first matches. So, now, what are some of the cons with this format? As I just showed, the first seed and the second seed, all the way up, I believe, to the 8th seed, possibly higher with more teams within this format, will be waiting for their first match. So some like critics like Atslord and some other European players that I've talked to say that, this format just, creates more time for European players. But that's unfortunately the compromise that we're going to be taking with this new format to help basically to help the tier 2 players to have more even games. Now, in some regards that can be seen as a positive thing. I know there's players like Paris and some other players that want the tournaments to be later because they get off work later. So in some regards, you can say that, you basically have 20 to 25 minutes till your first match for the tourney. So if you're a top 8 team, you can spend that time scrimming against another good team. You get to spend more time of practice than playing a useless match against like the 40th seed or the 39th seed where you're just kind of, it's just a waste of time. You know you're going to win that match and you can win that match with like 2 or 3 players. So that's kind of like the pros and cons with this format. You can also say that this format's a little bit harder to understand. You'll need to know what group you're in, and for all of that, we will tell you and we will let you know what group you're playing in your team chats when the team chats are made. So, but outside of that, that's basically all it is for this. If you want to scroll down and see your group, you just scroll down until you find your name. You can also do something as simple as Control F and just put your number in, and then boom, you'll find it right away. Or if you can you can just put whatever you need to find your information. So let's say you get told that you're in Group C or Group F. You just click Group F and you find it, or you can scroll down for it. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. Now let's say all of this completes in the group stage, right? So we have all these matches complete up, and it's basically just the first, second seed. I did like the most like mathematical, like the first seed is gonna win the entire tourney, second seed's gonna get second, all of that. So basically that's how the group stage ends up going. And you'll have everything will play out in even fashion. As you see, everything works here. When we go to the final stage, we will have the ninth seed, we'll have every seed that's past the 8th seed start in the bottom bracket. Now, the reason why we do this is so we can have even playing time. So matches will be going on the whole time forward. The only difference now is the people in the losers bracket will be waiting for one match. and then also getting into the new tiers. So we plan on introducing tier 3 sometime this week. Now, how tier 3 will work is tier 3 will basically be like the entrance tier into NACK. So tier 3 can play with tier 2 and tier 2 can play with tier 1. So we'll basically be reformatting the tiers to have open, open plus, and basically just a regular open queue. So the open plus will be tier 1 and tier 2, and open regular will be tier 2 and tier 3. Now I looked at some other games and seen what they do, and I noticed that most teams and most players in those games have tier 1 and tier 2 players intermingle. Now I know obviously the skill disparity for tier 1 and tier 2 in their games are a lot more closer, but in that aspect, I don't think we should keep tiers exclusive by itself. We should not just keep tier 1 exclusive by itself. We should not keep tier 2 exclusive by itself. And we want to obviously test some of these changes out in the next couple months. We plan on having an original list of tier 3 players that will go into this new tier, and so I think this is like the best way where we have these tier 3 players. Their first experience will be playing in tier 2 against. We'll move on to the next portion, which is regarding inspections, and this is like the final portion. Don't want this to be too long, but from now on, inspections will be done with only people that have the ability to inspect, and they'll have an inspector role that will be attached to them. You don't have If there are people that are in the VC that are not an inspector or a staff, you have the right to refuse screen share. So let's say like you're in an inspection call, and then let's say for example Sigma Boy joins the call, and Sigma Boy is muted, for example, and he's just there watching your screen share. You don't have to screen share it with players like Sigma Boy or Smoke or Clap, for example, because those guys they're not screen share staff. So this will be to prioritize, screen shares not getting leaked or information not getting leaked and methods obviously not getting leaked, because if you have regular players in these inspections figuring out what we do to find the cheats and everything, then obviously it'll cause problems later on. So that's just our way of fixing that solution, and also kind of protecting the privacy and respecting the players in that aspects.